Hey guys, it's Kat and I'm back today for a new palette review. Now, if you've been watching my channel, you know that in May I was trying to sort of review a new palette every week. I'm still catching up, and I know that by the time you're watching this, it's probably June, but I'm doing this in May, so still counts. So this is a bit of a different review because this is sort of like creating 3 looks using 3 palettes in the one video, and I'm going to be using this. Now, this is very exciting to me. So this is the Kaleidos Makeup Futurism Collection. Now, this was on my radar when I spotted it for beauty news. I was sharing it on Instagram and a lot of people were tagging me in the photo because one of the palettes in here has like a sort of swampy green tone, and it's a tone that I really love, and I've been banging on about how much I love and want more swampy greens. So this was sort of a collection that got a lot of like positive response when I shared it on the Beauty News Instagram account. So it was something that was on my radar and something that was on my like to check out list as soon as I get through and work through all the palettes that I currently have that I need to work through. But then I got an email from the team at Kaleidos Makeup, and they're like, Kat, do you want to check out the collection? I was like, heck yeah, I want to check out the collection. So I was very lucky that a couple of weeks ago I was actually sent this. Now I'm finally getting around to reviewing it. I've had a lot to review lately, but I'm very, very appreciative because this is a brand that I really wanted to try, and it was just a matter of time until I bought it myself. So yeah, I just wanted to thank the team at Kaleidos Makeup for sending this over because it was something that I really wanted to do, and it was really sweet of them to contact me. So there's 3 palettes in here. So the Futurism Collection is 3 palettes. You can buy them individually for, I think it's $24 each. So there's the Futurism 1, which is the Sci-Fi Green palette. There's the Futurism 2, which is the Cyber Bronze, and the Futurism 3, which is the Astro Pink. Or you can buy the full set, which is what I've got, for $59. These are all US dollars. Now, this pack was shipped from China. It shipped really quickly. I think it took less than a week to get to me, and it was like packed super solidly. So this was just like some of the bubble wrap that fit this box perfectly. So it was that, and then it was wrapped around with this stuff. So it was super, super secure. So I think they've done a really good job at preventing these from breaking. So in the box, there is like a little ribbon. I think there was a ribbon on the outside as well. And there was a lovely message from the team, which is super sweet. So very, very cute. Thanks, guys. They seem so lovely. So I'm very happy to finally try this. So when you take off the ribbon, this silver is actually like wrapped foam. It's just like gift wrapped foam. Oh, that's holographic. That's wow, that looks so cool on camera. That's trippy. And then we've got the 3 palettes here. So I'm very excited. We've got number 1, 2, and 3 that I read out before. So the palettes come in these little boxes. You open them up, and they're sort of really sturdy cardboard with magnetic closures. They're pretty sturdy, and I really like the sort of water marbled effect. There's like each palette has a different color that they have like a foiled sort of ribbon through it, and this is green. So this is the Futurism 1 Sci-Fi Green. So you open it up, there is a mirror, which is cool, and that's the palette there. So you can see when you take that off, there's sort of the swampy greens and a black and some sort of greeny golds, which are beautiful. So that's the Sci-Fi Green. This is the Cyber Bronze, and I wanted to point out that these eyeshadows, I think they're a little bit smaller than your typical pan of eyeshadow, but in total it contains 8 grams of product. So even though the pans are smaller, you're still getting like a decent amount of product. That is Cyber Bronze. I really love these sort of warm tone browns on the end, and the red. There's like a bronzy pink and a silver. It's a really cool combo. And the foiled color in this one is like a rose gold pink, which is pretty. Then we have Astro Pink, which you can see, oh, this one has more pink sort of veining through it, and it's got very purpley blue effect. It's really cool. So that's on the back, that's on the front. And this palette is more of your mauvey. It's got a shimmery black. It's got a duochrome blue. This is gorgeous. I don't know if you can see. Can you see in the mirror how it looks more pinky purple and then it looks more blue? It's really beautiful. Then you have a beautiful sort of wine berry color, a sort of silvery pink, and some mauvey nudes, which are really, really pretty. So they're all 6-pan palettes. All right, I'm just gonna start with the nude shades. This is the lighter shade, and I'm just going to run that in the crease. I do have primer on, but it's been on for quite some time, so it's sort of already set pretty nicely. It's the NARS medium eyeshadow primer. This is nude, actually applies very nicely and very like smoothly. And even though it doesn't look super pigmented, it's likely because it is quite similar to my skin tone. So we're just going to build that up a little bit. I'm just moving over to the next sort of deepest mauvey nude shade. You can see that just adds a little bit more depth. It's a very pretty shade. It's definitely a little bit more pinky than the lightest nude, which is more of, matches my skin tone a bit better, so it's a little bit peachier. Now, I don't know if this is going to work, but I'm going to try to use sort of the berry color on the top, on my top lash line, and then run the blue on my lower lash line. But I don't know if I'm going to get the like full effect of the blue. So, you know, we're just playing it by ear right now, but I've got a bit of a flatter brush. These mattes are a little bit powdery, but like they do apply quite nicely. I'm just a little bit worried about fallout. This looks a little bit patchy, but the color is beautiful. It's like a magenta berry, so you can see it there. But this is definitely the type of shade that will probably benefit from a stickier base, because it's not getting maximum opacity. It is beautiful though. It's a very pretty color. And surprisingly, even though these are very soft, there's not much fallout, which is fantastic. So this one is a very pretty shade. I think it's probably more designed for sort of crease work or just deepening a color, like a look a little bit, because on its own, it just doesn't apply super boldly. I'm just going to apply a little bit with my fingers to build it up. So that's a lot better. That's applying a lot more bold. So it does get there, and you just might need to use a stickier base than I've got, or your fingers. Beautiful color though, Jesus. Super pretty color, and I'm still surprised that there's no fallout to worry about, which is great. So that's really gorgeous. I'm just going in with that second mauve shade again on the same fluffy brush, just to sort of diffuse that and blend it out a little bit. I don't want to blend too much because I'm just worried that I'm going to lose some intensity on the lid, but man, that's a pretty color. All right, time for that gorgeous duochrome shade, and I'm just putting this on the lower lash line. Whoa, it's pretty. Okay, so this color is really interesting. It's sort of, it seems like it's more of a sparkle with a slightly darkened base. So once again, I think this will benefit from more of a sticky base because it's not a really opaque shimmer or like metallic shade. It's just like micro glitter. So it's super, super pretty. But once again, I think a stickier base, like a glitter glue or something, that will just intensify a lot, but it's a gorgeous color. So it definitely does build up and it looks really intense. There's very little primer on my lower lash line. There's also very little fallout, which is really interesting. So there's a tiny bit of glitter fallout because, you know, I'm putting quite a lot of glitter on my eye, but surprisingly there's not too much fallout. All right, because this look is quite dark, I'm popping a little bit of that sort of silvery pink shimmer just on the inner corner, just to add a little bit of brightness. This is a really pretty color too. It's like a sort of soft, no, not even lavender. It's like a mauve, pinky, silvery shimmer that's really pigmented and looks really gorgeous. I've just used a bit of a clean brush to diffuse that a little bit because it's looking very bold, which is fine, but I just wanted to blend in a little bit better. And because I'm trying to use all the shades in each look, I'm just running a little bit of that shimmery black just on the lower lash line and also outer corner of the top lash line. Top lid, that's what it is. Jeez. All right, so that black, it looks mainly matte on the eye, but it is very intense. It also has a little bit of fallout, so I'm just gonna see if I can flick it away. Luckily I can. Fallout doesn't bother me when I can just flick it away, which is, you know, it's great. And because that black is so bold, I'm just going to go in and just pop a little bit more blue over the top. I think the blue over the black really would help this blue pop if you wanted it to look even more intense, but I think I'm just trying to bring some of the color back a little bit. And same goes for the purple. I'm just putting a little bit more just over the lid to take down some of that black. All right, so here is the look with the mascara, some black wing liner, and just some half lashes just in the corner. I think it's a very, very beautiful look. I kind of look wonky, but I think that's like the angle the camera is. I really, really love the purple on the lid. I think that's my favorite element of this palette so far. But I think this is a really striking look. All right, so I actually really like this look. I wanted to start with the palette that I was probably least comfortable with. Blues and purples I don't tend to wear on a daily basis, but I really like the effect of this. The purple is very, very unique in my collection. And even though it did require fingers to really build it up, I think it was totally worth it. And there was no like fallout and mess and stuff. So it was pretty easy. I would recommend probably if you did want to get a bold look to probably blend some on in the crease or wherever you want to put it, and then just tap it on and then sort of diffuse it out a little bit and you're good to go. But what I liked about this palette the most is I can actually see myself wanting to reach for this in multiple looks. I can see quite a wearable look taking that out. So mauvey, a little bit of purple, a little bit of shimmer. So imagine mauve all over the lid, a little bit of purple in the outer corner, a little bit of shimmer either popped on the center of the lid or in the inner corner. I think that could be a really beautiful daytime look. I could see the purple and black, so similar to what I did on the top, but also carried underneath, as being a really modern smoky eye. I so want to do that. Like take away the blue and just mirror the sort of purple, and it would be a beautiful, beautiful smoky eye that makes like brown eyes look really interesting. So I love it. And I really also want to try this duochrome shade that, like I said, looks pink in some lights and blue in other lights. I want to just pack that on the lid, really, really bold and really foiled, and see the duochrome effect. So there's quite a lot in here that I can see myself reaching for, which is unusual for color tones like this. The quality was quite nice. It was all quite pigmented, minus maybe the purple that, like I said, needed to be built up with fingers. And these shimmers were really, really sparkly and really intense, but also really wearable and really pretty. Black was really bold. I don't love blacks with shimmer in them because I always just end up looking matte on the eye anyway, but I understand that because the green palette has a matte black in it, they wanted to make it a bit different. So yeah, this palette you could take daytime, you could take nighttime, you could even make it more bold than what I've got and really play up the black and the blue, because I think if you put that all over the lid and then layered that on, you would get an even more intense effect than what I got. But I think this is a beautiful palette so far. So I'm really excited to try the next palette tomorrow. Two updates from yesterday. I wanted to mention that I totally forgot to bring my mirror when I was doing my makeup. So I actually did use this little mirror to do my makeup, and it was fine. It is long and it is small, but you can definitely see your eyes, which is good. Also, I really loved the purple from yesterday. The look was really, really like interesting. The purple's really inspiring, but because I did have to pack it on with my finger, I did find that towards the end of the day, I found that it was transferring, because I do have hooded eyes. It was transferring up to here, and a simple brush away, and that was fine. But that was probably the main issue that I had with the look throughout the day. It wore fine, it looked fine. It's just that a little bit of the lid color transferred onto here because it just, yeah, I had to pack a lot on and it didn't like really stick to the eye properly. So that was something I noticed. All right, going the mustardy color, which seems to blend quite nicely over the same primer that I used yesterday. I didn't set this, I just thought use it as is. This is quite a powdery eyeshadow, so I'm getting a bit of kick up in the pan. It's not too patchy. There's a little bit of like it's just sort of gripped to the eye in a weird spot there, but it doesn't look too bad. You can see a little bit here as well where it seems to sort of cling to certain areas and not others. It is quite powdery though. It reminds me of Anastasia Beverly Hills eyeshadows. So I'll show you the pan when I've finished doing this. So you can see the powderiness there. So you don't want to like swirl your brush in it. I've just been tapping my brush in it and it picks up that product. So It is quite powdery. All right, the color that I love the most from this palette is the metallic red. So I want that to be the main look all over the lid, but I don't like a lot of red sort of in the inner corner because it can start making your eye look a little bit, I don't know, funny, closed in, I guess. So I'm going for that sort of rose gold metallic shade just on the inner portion, and then I'm going to do the majority of the lid red. Let's see how this applies. So the shimmers do apply very nicely. There's not much kick up in the pan, and this is a really pretty rose gold sort of bronze. Thought I'd just adjust the camera so it stopped focusing on my nose. But you can see this is a very wearable color. This is sort of an all over lid color that I'd be happy to wear most days. It's a beautiful rosy bronze color. So I'm going to take that, sort of blend it in the inner portion, but I'll overlap it with the red. Okay, going in with the red, and I sort of want the division to be not too subtle. I almost want it to be like a line, which is why I'm sort of also going for this brush. But that is a beautiful red. Wow. So it applies quite nicely, and there's very little fallout. There's a tiny bit, but that's when I was sort of like trying to blend this in a little bit. If you just pack it on, there's no fallout. This would be a beautiful liner as well. There's not much hassle building this up, which is really nice. Once again, you could definitely use your finger to make it a little bit more intense, but I don't really feel like it needs it. I feel like it looks really bold and beautiful on its own. Just out of curiosity, I thought I'd just pack some on to see how intense you can get it. It's just a really beautiful color. I'm going to go back in with that brush that I used before just to sort of blend that a little bit, but there's no extra product on the brush. All right, there's still a little bit of patchiness in that crease, but I'm going to pop in a bit of darker shades as we sort of build up, so it's not too bad. I'm just going in with that same sort of mustardy matte shade just to run on the lower lash line. Actually didn't put any primer under here, so we'll see how it sticks. I'm on the same brush, I'm just using some of the slightly darker orangey brown just to start adding a bit more depth to the look. I really love these sort of warm brown, sort of smoky, blown out lower lash line look. I think it's pretty. And these apply really well. Once again, they sort of remind me of Anastasia Beverly Hills a little bit. Nicely pigmented, but quite soft and powdery. Means that they do blend well. It's got to deal with a little bit of kick up in the pan. And just in the outer corner, some of that chocolate brown just on the same brush, and a tiny bit in the corner on the lower lash line. I feel like these mattes are a bit more powdery than the pink palette that I used yesterday. All right, just a tiny bit of that orange shade just to help transition that out and blend that out a little bit. All right, we've got a nice sort of diffused, probably not perfectly blended, but a nice diffused sort of orangey brown eye with a pop of red. I really love the red, it's beautiful. Now I need to go in for a little bit of silver. I've just got a lip brush here where I'm gonna just pop a little bit of silver. So I'm thinking of putting some just down here. So I just decided to pop it there as a bit of a different highlight. So not just right in the corner, I've just done it a little bit under. I really like silver as like a accent to a look, but I'm not really comfortable with silver all over the lid or anything, so that's how I wanted to put it there. I was thinking of putting a line just where the red meets the bronze color, but I think that could get very, very messy, and I kind of like it how it is. So, but before I go away and do my liner and lashes and show you the complete look, I do want to point out that the silver is a little bit delicate. I did use quite a firm lip brush to pick it up, and you can see the little like gouges in there, so just be a bit careful with that. You can see that all the mattes are quite powdery as well, so that's not a sign of a bad eyeshadow, it's just something to be aware of. These performed very beautifully. And they weren't too soft in the pan. This one I might just press back down with my finger a little bit. So I just pressed it with my finger and I put the excess on the back of my hand. Look how gorgeous that silver is. So it's a really beautiful, really, really shimmery and like bold silver, which is, you know, if you love silvers, you're gonna love it. If you don't like silvers, you can just use it as a little pop of color somewhere. All right, so we have the finished look with some brown gel liner as a wing. I didn't want to use black because I thought brown sort of works better with the colors. I put some of that same gel liner on my waterline. some mascara on, and some half lashes. Now, you don't need half lashes with this look. I just thought I want to make it quite intense. I think this look would also be really pretty if you just wore mascara without the liner, but you know, you can do whatever you want to do. All right, so I really love this look. I think it's a beautiful look. I particularly love the red, and what I've sort of noticed, and I noticed it yesterday as well, each palette sort of has accompanying shades and then two shades that are very sort of bold and very unique to the palette, and the colors sort of help support that. So in this palette, I think it's the red and the silver. I think they're super bold and they can really add something interesting to a look. Similar to yesterday, you could definitely use this palette in different ways. You can use it with this and just some of the mattes to make more of a nude look. You can go all silver and be really like frosty, or you can incorporate red in different ways, like on the lower lash line as a pop of color, or even as a liner to the look. So they are quite versatile in that degree, but I definitely think the two key colors in here are those two. Whereas yesterday, I think the key colors were the matte purple and the sort of shimmery duochrome bluey purple color. I think they were the most unique in the palette. I think the difference between this palette so far is that the mattes are a lot more powdery than the palette yesterday. It's not a big deal. It's just something to, you know, notice. All right, time for the last look with the green palette. So let's get into it. But to just set my base a little bit, I've got some of that mustard shade that I'm just going to run into the crease. Okay, this is quite pigmented. So I thought, okay, I'll just take a little bit and this will be more, like I said, just to set my base, but it's definitely there. It's definitely noticeable. All right, just on the same brush, I'm going in with the lighter matte green just to sort of cover that mustard shade a little bit. I think I had this issue the other day. Was it yesterday? I'm not sure. It's sort of not applying patchy, but it's sort of sticking a little bit to my base and isn't blending really, really seamlessly, but I'm sure we'll get there. I'm not sure if you can see where it sort of gathers in certain areas, and then where your skin sort of folds and moves, it doesn't really want to blend seamlessly over. All right, so I put up a little bit of a fight. We sort of got there. There's a little bit of work to do. I feel like this color looks a lot more brown here, and this looks a lot more green. I don't know if that's because there was more mustard color underneath this, but they do look like different colors to me. So I'm going to start going in with the green shimmer just to sort of hide a lot of the unevenness, and then we'll sort of build from there. Luckily, shimmer does have a tendency to hide a lot of sins, which is great. All right, I have seen some comparison reviews with this palette and the Gemini palette, and from what I sort of gathered, a lot of people were saying that the shimmers are a lot better in this than it is in the Gemini. And I'm not going to say that that is the case or that is not the case. I feel like the shimmer is just really different. The Gemini shimmer seems to have a lot of base green color, and it's got a little bit of a sort of, you know, it's got a sheen to it, it's a shimmer, but it's got more base color. This one feels like it's just packed shimmer with not much green base to it. It looks a lot lighter, and I feel like I need to build it up a lot to make it look opaque on the eye. So not that I think one is better or worse, it's just a matter of preference. So this is a lot lighter on the eye, whereas I think Gemini is a lot more green. So, and that one, you know, yeah, the base color is a lot more intense. This one sort of feels like so it's a beautiful shimmer, but if I sort of wipe it on my finger and blend it out, there's really no base color to it. It's just like built up shimmer. So yeah, it's more like a topper effect than a sort of solid opaque shimmer. So which one's better? It's up to you. For me personally, I don't like something that I feel like I need to build up, this is just with my finger, to get a solid look. I do like the sort of effect of the Gemini shimmer more, but this is a very, very intense, this gives a lot more reflect on the eye and a lot more lightness on the eye. So if you prefer that, then this one is probably one that you'd prefer. So I'm just going on with a bit of the darker green just to sort of blend that out a little bit. I am sort of feeling like this is removing the shimmer a little bit. There's a little bit, starting to go a little bit patchy. I don't know if the matte's removing the shimmer or if the shimmer wasn't on there properly, but that sort of darker green color is more like what the Gemini shimmer is sort of like. But I like this diffused. I think it looks really pretty. It's a nice green. I don't feel like the mattes layer over the shimmer like they don't really, yeah, if you put the matte over the shimmer, it sort of just, I feel like the mattes don't layer over the shimmers super well. So yeah, I just feel like trying to build up the matte over the top of the shimmer, it doesn't really want to stick on. It sort of just brushes away. So it just adds a little bit of dimension, but you can even see that the shimmer starts to, it's a lot, I feel like the shimmer formula is a lot softer, so it sort of diffuses a lot more. So even just blending the matte green into the crease, it's taken the shimmer right up into the crease. Whereas you can't really see that I tried to pack on the dark green there. So the mattes don't really stick on top of the shimmer. If you did want to have more darkness in this area, you'd want to leave a gap and not put shimmer there. It just doesn't tend to build on the shimmer. So there's that. It's just observation. All right, I'm going to run that mustard color along my lower lash line. This is a tiny fluffy brush. I would probably prefer to do like a typical, maybe a bit of a firmer brush, but I'm running out of clean brushes. I need to wash my brushes after this. All right, so that applied pretty easily. It didn't take much to build it up. It applied nice and smoothly. What I'm thinking of doing now is taking that gold shimmer shade, which is very different from the Gemini. The Gemini doesn't have a gold in it. And I'm going to actually just apply this probably almost like halo lower lid kind of action going on. I was going to put it just on my inner corner, but I feel like that's too boring. I sort of want to give a little bit more luminosity to the lower lash line just in the middle. And I might build that up quite a bit. So you can see I've definitely gone green on the top, warmer on the bottom. I'm just going to put a touch of that black on the outer corner where the sort of green wasn't building up properly, just to use the black, really. So, oh, that looks patchy. Once again, this black isn't really sticking to the outer corner very well. It's sort of just making the shimmer look patchy. It's very strange. So, yeah, that shimmer's a bit of a, it's dominating. But because I do want to use some black, I'm just going to put a touch down here. All right, so that's the eye look. I'm going to go off and put some liner on like I did the other days. I do really like the added gold. I really like how that sort of mustardy color does complement the greens. That shimmer is very intense, maybe to its own detriment, but it, you know, does apply nicely. There was no fallout, which was great. So, you know, I do like this look. I'm curious how it swatches compared to the Gemini. So I'll come back and show you the complete look and then I'll do that. All right, we're back with the final look with liner, mascara, and just the half lashes again. I used a black liquid liner and then I put this JD Glow sort of metallic liner over the top. This is in the shade Fame. So I just thought I'll go with the green sort of vibe, put that on, put a bit of brown on my waterline. So that's what I've done there. All right, so I thought I would compare this to Gemini really quickly, but also tell you what I think about using this. Now, I'm going to say that probably out of all the three palettes, this was the one that I didn't love the most. Even though the shimmers were really pretty, I do find that I fought with the mattes a little bit. They sort of skipped on the eye and just took a lot to blend out. So I felt like this was a little bit of work. Also the shimmer, especially this green one, I don't feel like it's an opaque color. And so I felt like I had to keep building it up and to the point where it sort of takes over everything. I've got, you know, green shimmer almost up to my brow bone. It's very, very reflective, which is fine, but it almost looks foiled, which I think with these sort of swampy green looks, I like them to be a little bit more grungy. And I feel like this is a little bit more like beetle and like reflective. It's not how I like to wear these greens, if that makes sense. And I think what really frustrated me about this shade was that nothing really wanted to pack over the top of it. It took over the look, and if you wanted to blend a darker shade in the crease, you can get there, but once again, it's a bit of a battle. So I found this palette to be more of a battle than I sort of expected it to be. And I actually thought this look was going to be the easiest because I'm so familiar with these greens that I was just like, look, this look is going to take me 5 minutes. I'm going to smash it. But I felt like this was more of there's a bit of a battle going on. All right, I'm going to quickly compare this palette to the Gemini palette. I'm going to swatch the two side by side and let you know how I think these compare. All right, so both the Sci-Fi Green and the Gemini have this sort of mustardy color that I ran on my lower lash line. Now I got to remember which one's which. All right, this one is the Kaleidos one, and this is the Gemini one. Gemini is definitely more pigmented. Looking quite closely, it does look more yellow toned as well. Now, Gemini doesn't have this gold shade, so I won't compare it. Smoke Sessions from Melt does have a similar one, but we'll skip and we'll go to this shimmer. So hopefully you can see there the difference that I was referring to when I was applying it. This is the Kaleidos. You can see it's very, very reflective, but the Gemini has more color to it. It's actually more green. So we'll go Kaleidos, which almost looks like a glitter topper, like a shimmer topper. If you just apply one coat, there's like no base color. It's just a shimmer. Whereas Melt, it's a little bit chunkier. It's not as soft to apply, but there's definitely more green. And I sort of missed that in this look. I feel like this is looking very silver, whereas I'm sort of used to that really true green. And if I pick up the smallest amount on my fingers and blend them out, I'll show you what I'm talking about. So Kaleidos, like you can almost see my skin tone when you put it on an angle, whereas this one's actually green. So for me, I don't think the green matches up to the Gemini one at all. And I know this is a completely different palette, but a lot of people are saying that it's a good dupe. So I just wanted to really point that out, that I think the shimmer applies nice and smoothly on the eye, but the color just, it's not the same. And I prefer the Melt one. I think that's where I'm coming from. All right, we've got Kaleidos and we've got Gemini. So this is the sort of lighter matte green. So it's Kaleidos, that's Gemini. Once again, Gemini just has a more green tone to it. Like these actually look very green. These almost look, compared to them, they almost look like champagne and gray. So I feel like the green is not, I don't know, it's just not doing it. All right, the dark green, we've got Kaleidos, we have Melt. So we've got Kaleidos here. Once again, it's a very muted green, and this is Melt. So a little bit flaky, but gets there. Once again, it's a lot more green in tone. All right, the blacks are interesting. Kaleidos looks more black in this swatch. That's Gemini. So we've got Kaleidos here, which is beautiful. Kaleidos one's beautiful. The Melt one isn't as pigmented, but they're both really bold blacks. So yeah, I think the swatches are very, very evident that even though this is a similar, like there's dupes for sure. Just out of curiosity, I'm going to swatch the gold versus the Smoke Session. So this is the second green palette from Melt Cosmetics, which has a lot of other greens in it, but they also have golds. So we have Kaleidos, we have Melt. So I'm just going to do it down here so you can see Kaleidos, which is once again more of a sparkly topper shade. There's not much base color to it. It's sort of, yeah, it looks like a topper. And then we have Melt, which once again is a little bit chunky, but it's definitely more vibrant. So yeah, hopefully that demonstrates that even though I think that this is designed to be a dupe for Gemini, I don't think it really holds a candle to it. The formula, to some degree, depending on what you want, might be better. I have heard a lot of people say that they think the shimmers are better. I just don't think the colors are better. They just look grey. They almost look toned down and a dull version of a green, whereas this looks gorgeous, that's gorgeous, that's gorgeous. That to me in the viewfinder looks champagne, grey. So I don't know, it's not there. Another thing that this palette doesn't have, that Melt does have, of course, there's some other shades here which would be dupes for other palettes. Like I think there are some colors in here that the red palette has, for example, but this kicker down here, I don't see many people when they're trying to dupe this palette mention this guy. This guy is very important in my opinion because it really blends out a green look without muting the green. So for example, if I needed to blend out this look with the mustard, it's going to tone down the green. Whereas this shade here actually works with the green to blend it out, but it doesn't take away from the green. So I think that's an important element that was actually skipped in this palette if you wanted to recreate the Gemini palette. All right, so if money was not an issue and you were tossing up between buying these two, I honestly would still say go Gemini, only because the colors are punchier and they're actually more green. If you wanted green, this green's, it still can't be beaten in my opinion. When I was applying these eyeshadows, I'm just like, there's something missing. There's some like element of oomph that's missing. And I think it's the actual green element. There's a little bit of green going on, but the sort of intense grungy greens, they're not in this palette. They're sort of in the palette, but they're not quite there. I also think with the Gemini, if you did want to dupe the whole thing and you were interested in the sort of neutral shades there, you have to also buy this palette with it, because this is where you get those sort of browns as well. So when you look at it that way, these aren't a cheaper option unless you just wanted the greens. And if you just wanted the greens and you wanted to play with a little bit of murky greens, but you weren't too fussed about the intensity of green, then this is a great little capsule one, and it is definitely more affordable than this guy. I think people were looking for dupes for Gemini because originally Gemini was limited edition, but they've recently brought it out as permanent. So you can get it at Sephora in the US now, you can get it at the Melt website. So this is not hard to get anymore. So I think this would have been a good replacement if you couldn't get this, but I still think this trumps it. So even though I do like this color story, I've got better elsewhere, and I feel like this one put up more of a fight and wasn't as unique as the other two palettes. So this one was all right, but I do prefer these. And the reason, probably my favorite, is this pink one. I think this is a very unique palette. I think the colors applied really nicely. I can see some really great day to night looks using this. And I was so impressed by the purple. Okay, it didn't apply boldly on the eye with a brush, but it is a very unique purple. I don't have anything like that in my collection. And when I was wearing the purple all over the lid, I was like, I need to do this again. I want to play with this purple in the crease. I want to play it on the lower lash line. I want to do an all purple look. I just want this purple because it's so unique and so beautiful. And I kept catching myself in the mirror going, yeah, that purple's rad. So for me, this is a more unique color story and it's a little bit more fun. It's not copying a popular palette and trying to deliver a dupe. It's doing its own thing. And I think I like the formula overall. It didn't fight with me as much as the green palette did. And then probably second, I like the bronze palette. And once again, this one, I think the downside to this was that the mattes are very, very powdery. But I did find the quality here to be very similar to the Anastasia Beverly Hills mattes, where they're very pigmented, easy to blend. You just have to be careful not to pick up too much on the brush. And this red was dynamite. It was beautiful. I could see myself reaching for all matte colors, putting it with this sort of, it's not even a rose gold. It's like a rosy bronze color. I can totally see a really wearable look, or I can see myself reaching for this red to like make some banging looks. So I thought this palette was pretty solid. So I really do like this collection overall, and I'm really keen to see what the brand does in the future with more palettes, because I think their unique color story palettes are a lot better than their sort of dupes, if that makes sense. And this might not be created as a dupe, but because it is so similar to the Gemini palette, people refer to it as a dupe. But I still think if you're going to do a dupe, you should probably do it better, because there's already one on the market that's really good. So this disappointed me a little bit. If I'd never tried the Gemini, I probably would really like this. But having tried the Gemini and used it so many times, this didn't, I felt like it was a off day. I felt like I was using the Gemini and it just wasn't working as well as I am used to it working. That's what it sort of felt like. So for me, this was, the least favorite, but I think this is a really interesting brand to keep an eye out for. And I really want to see what they do next. And I really want to see them do more unique color stories, because that's where these palettes shine. It's not so much the dupe. To me, it's the color stories. I think this brand got more recognition because they duped a very popular palette. So I admire them from that marketing perspective, but I really want to see where their creativity goes, because especially this palette with the purple, my God, I can't wait to just play with this tomorrow. Like maybe using a mauvey color like these mauves, and then like a taupe color on the lid, and that in the crease and lower lash line. Fuck, I'm waiting for that. And I'm just thinking, oh, if I wanted a bold color, imagine mixing the magenta with the red. Holy shit. So I think this is a lot more fun and innovative, whereas this just seems like it's Gemini but falls flat a little bit in my opinion. And because I have Gemini, I don't need to reach for this, but I will continue to reach for the other two because there's some beautiful shades in there and they're a lot more unique to my collection. So I just want to thank Kaleidos Makeup for sending me this pack. It's very generous of them, and I had a really fun time doing a look a day and playing with different things. Personally, I had the green one on my wish list, and I was like, if I place an order, I'm going to buy the green one. I probably would have ignored the other two and ironically, they're the two that I love the most. So I really appreciate them sending it out to me and letting me play with these because I've had a fun time and they're good little palettes. So I will link them down below if you want to check them out, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.